Perfect as ever, Adam.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody to the digital download, and thank you for listening in, watching in, and we're going to do. I'm actually going to do the introductions today and get everybody to introduce themselves, because one of the things that we thought was that we've actually been doing a lot of talking, and just wondered whether there was anybody out there that had any questions that they wanted answering. So I wanted to give people time to actually type things in. We're willing to take any questions, whether it's about sales, marketing, leadership, all kinds of things. You know, the things that we normally talk about, and we'd love to hear people, their thoughts, their comments. So if you've got any, yes, Robert, it's the skeleton crew. Yes,
scraping the barrel.
We've got a birthday. We've got
concerts.
We've got concerts.
Yeah, I'm gutted about that. I'm gutted that Eric, my music buddy, who I should be doing an album with this afternoon, has decided he would rather go and watch Duran Duran live in concert than sit on a webinar with me.
Why didn't you critique Duran Duran while he's there, and pick an album and just say
we have already
probably
done
knowing you why Eric is wasting his time there, Adam.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, Will. I like that.
So we're interested if you've got any questions, any comments, any coaching things. Thank you, Robert, for saying it's a good barrel. Thank you. That's you're welcome. You can come back again. Anything there out there that you questions or comments or that we would be we would welcome it. Yes, and any Duran comments would be highly appreciated as well. While we wait to see if there's anything that comes in, let's just do some introductions. So Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam. I'm Tim's business partner, co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I've had a thoroughly enjoyable week. I've been rushed off my feet, but it's been a fantastic week this week.
Good. And Will.
Hi there, everybody. Yeah, I'm William Shorten. So I'm part of the DLA Ignite team. So work with Tim and Adam. It's been a while since I've been here, so it's great to be back. And I also run my own business, so I'm a trainer, facilitator, and an accredited coach as well.
And we were saying just before we went live that you look pretty chilled out.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty chilled out today. It's Friday, got a good weekend ahead, and it's been a busy couple of weeks. So it's been a bit nicer today, not to have quite so much rush and a bit of time to kind of sit back and reflect a bit, because I know Adam likes to know that I reflect quite a lot.
You do indeed, and obviously today is as a keen cyclist, you'll be thrilled. Today is the prologue, isn't it, for the tour?
It is a prologue from Copenhagen. So
wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
The Tour de France starting in Copenhagen.
This is what they do, and I think it's going to the Netherlands or Belgium as well before it gets to France. So they've really they like to expand it and have certainly starts in different locations. So
it's been here, hasn't it? It came not far from where I live a couple of years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
How did they bicycle across the channel?
Quickly. Otherwise,
they have one of those where they put those flippers or paddles to the back of the bike.
A pedalo type thing.
Yeah. My friends are going to kill me for saying that. So.
Oh, I forgot. There's a channel now, right?
There is a channel. Yeah.
There is a channel. And Rob, why don't you introduce yourself?
Good morning, all. I'm Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results. I'm based in Boston, USA. Long weekend for us today. We'll be kicking off the Independence Day holiday, celebrating that on Monday, but really celebrating it all weekend long. Everyone has already seemed to leave town and head for their vacation destinations. So it's kind of quiet around here, both in the real world and in the digital world. I have been an associate with DLA Ignite for a while now, and with Flywheel Results, I provide staffing, training, and consulting services for tech companies, a lot of startups. Go Red Sox. Yes.
I've got blue socks on. Sorry. Sorry. So today we're taking questions. We are going to do some content, but we're willing to take questions from you. We're interested in what the audience have, any problems or any issues or just any things that you want to clear up. So a couple of things have come in, and so if I put Robert's question up first of all, so if you gives us a couple of seconds to read that. I post on LinkedIn nearly every day on topics from business tips around storytelling, management, etc. I would also integrate stories with personal experiences into them, but I'm not getting any traction. Any advice? Good question.
Very good question.
Who wants to pick that up?
Shall I start? And we can all pile in. I think that one of the most damaging things in the whole world of, so if we think of social media as a marketing thing, first of all, it's about reaching out to people, having conversations with people, positioning yourself in front of people. I think that one of the greatest misnomers in marketing is this belief: build it and they will come. So it's great that you're creating content, and in fact, actually, I loved your post today, Robert, about having sold the bandsaw and the thicknessing table, and the story that you told around that. The challenge, though, is that a good post, no matter how good it is only a good post if someone reads it. And why would somebody read a post from me? If I've got 1,000 connections and they've got 1,000 connections, the chances are I'm just somebody that they don't know, that they connected to 5 years or 25 years ago. And I've been sitting there in the background and I've started to post things and they simply haven't noticed me. So what we all need to do, first of all, is to build an audience. So we need to connect to the places where we want to have conversations. If I'm trying to be noticed as an event speaker, then I need to be joining the conversations around events, connecting to people that are hosting those events or are pivotal in those events. And then I need to be activating that audience, because one thing that for certain is that if I post something, people maybe will see it, but they probably won't react or possibly won't react to it. But if I wanted Tim to engage with some of my content, I'd find one of his posts and I'd like it. And then when he posted something else, I'd comment on it. And then when he posted something else, I'd like it. And then posted something else, I'd like it. And eventually there comes a point when he thinks to himself, who is this guy that keeps liking my posts? And he'd look at my profile and then he'd start to see my posts, because that's the kind of the programming element of the human brain. If you've noticed me, then you'll notice me. Like you buy a new BMW and then every car on the road seems to be a BMW because you're noticing them now. So you would notice me and then you would start to consume my content. So the challenge that we all have is allocating time to strategically think about who do we want to be connected to that we can begin a conversation with. So we reach out to them and say, hi, I'd like to connect to you because you look really cool. And then once we've connected to those people, we gradually activate them by being kind with our comments and dropping likes on stuff. And it doesn't happen overnight. But one of the great things about social, the greatest thing I believe about social, is that it helps you to provide scale to the intimacy of face-to-face networking. So where once upon a time you would go to a group of 20 people and have breakfast with them and shake hands with them and get to know them over time, and eventually those people would treat you as a member of their family and a trusted advisor, you could only do it with 20 people because you can only sit next to 2 people and opposite one at a table at any given time. Now with social, if you just take LinkedIn as an example, there's 850 million people at this table and you can talk to them as often as you want. And the challenge for us all is to identify who do we actually want to talk to, because we don't want to talk to everybody. And then how do we activate those people so that they notice us? And if you do that, you can't fail, really. Well, we've never, let's put it this way. We, in all the time that Tim and I, since we started the business, have been coaching people to do this. anybody that's done that hasn't failed ever. Good. I'm pleased to hear it, Robert.
Will, Rob?
So I believe content is one of the three legs on this three-legged stool. You also need to be approachable, build a great profile, and you need to be sociable. You need to build and continue to build a great network. The most difficult leg for the stool for many people is that third leg: be generous, build great content. It sounds like that's the one that's coming easiest to you at this point. But for those that don't buy into that yet, I like to share this. There are moths and there are light bulbs. Be the light bulb. Illuminate the things that everyone wants to talk about.
It's fantastic. Great advice.
Brilliant.
Will, anything at all?
Yeah, I think kind of trying to synthesize some of that and lead on. So, I mean, you know, part of and I agree exactly with what Rob just said there in terms of be the light bulb. And on top of that, you have to be the light bulb that's going to find out what light bulb is going to attract the moths. Yeah. So actually, I think there's a step around, if you are posting as regularly as you are, which is great, Robert. It's a lot more regularly than I do. Go back and look at the kind of the data. You know, so the great thing about LinkedIn is you've got all of these different metrics that you can measure. And it's something that I do on a weekly basis. I'll go through, I'll look at my posts, I'll note down, you know, how many people I've connected with, you know, how many posts I've done, how many likes they've generated, how many comments, etc. they've generated. And I think as you start to do that, you'll also start to pick out what are the things that are standing out and resonating. And I know from myself, and it's really come into sharp relief in the last couple of months in terms of my posts. For some reason, I don't know why it is, but if I put a post which has got my picture in it, it generates probably 2 to 3 times the amount of likes and 2 to 3 times the amount of views that it gets.
Well, it's obvious to us, Will, because you're such a handsome man.
I wasn't fishing for that. But thank you, Adam. You know, the check's in the post. You know, and I think it is all about finding, it comes back to that light bulb. You know, what does your light bulb look like? What's your voice? What's your style that is going to engage with people? And so I think it really is doing that. And I think, you know, linking back to what Rob and Adam have said, there is something about generosity. It's why I really like this program, because I think, sorry, the platform, when people use it properly and they come across and they show that they're kind of connecting in various different ways, people recognize that, you know, and that then becomes your kind of special sauce. And because so few people out there are doing that, if you can even do that half well, you're going to get recognized.
That's great advice. Great advice. So to add on to that, I mean, there were all great answers. For me, the one about the network is that most people have contacts. I'm just going to use words, and you see this as a process. So there's a process that you go through in terms of, I'm connected to probably current employees, former employees, and recruitment consultants. And what we need to do is go and connect to the people, as Adam said, that we want to influence. So when we connect to them, we are just a connection. And what we need to do is actually then start building that as a network. So a network being, as you know, and I'm telling you things that you know, which is where you're having this backwards and forwards going on, and there's some sort of conversation going on. But then you move that again to being an audience, which is where people come in and they actually want to engage, because they know as part of the engage, there's going to be a proper discussion going on, not just me turning around and trying to sell you some stuff. The second thing would be the in terms of content, to use what I would always call the 411, which is 4 pieces of content, which is four pieces of content, which is around the business issue that you're solving, the business issues that you think that you're solving within your ideal customer. One which is to do with your product or service, which could be a pitch, it could be a brochure, whatever. You'll get away with it if you're putting out things that are interesting. And then the other one is something which is human. And human content always goes down well on LinkedIn, as Will points out. When he puts out something about him, you get 2-3 times the amount of. And the reason for that is that people come to LinkedIn to be sociable and are interested in you. They're not coming to actually read brochures.
And I think
any further points on that?
I think there's something which struck me as you were talking about, which comes back to that generosity. And I think there's something around reciprocity as well.
Yes.
Because when you engage with other people and you're doing it for the right reasons, and you're liking their posts, actually after a while they'll probably come back to like yours. And it leads on from something. I know Eric's not with us, but we always talk about the burrito, but there's also that kind of sense of community. So I see we've got kind of Beth on with us and Michal as well, but both of those are kind of proud Burritonians. And there's something about then as you start to kind of make that community or network, that it really, there's a kind of mutual support part which kicks in with it as well. And I think that's then when you really start to find it working. The wheel spins that much quicker when you manage to create that.
And Robert, you create some great content, and you do mix it up, which is great. There's a lovely mix, but the live stream maybe soon. Stretch you, challenge you a bit, because it's a great format.
Yeah.
And don't mix up the why. The why you're creating this content is not for the likes. The why is you want to get closer to people. You want to have conversations with people. And then maybe some of those conversations will lead to business transactions. The why is not the likes, but that's how we measure quote unquote success. It's a KPI, but it's not the KPI.
Mm.
And Robert, as well as anybody that, you're very kind in asking a question, but you're of a growth mindset, and that while feedback and that is it always can be difficult. The fact that we're telling you these things, it's a great, we're sharing with you, and it's and great feedback and great affirmation as well. So, so just if you've tuned in, what we're doing is that we're taking questions from the audience. If you've got any questions about what you're doing on social media, if you've got any questions about sales, marketing, coaching, leadership, anything, that we'll take questions. We may turn around and say we can't answer them, but we'll take the questions. I need to go back because
Beth's question was really interesting.
Beth's question, yes. So here's a question, not sure it'll spark a debate, but I'll be interested to what you know. What do you think of the future of social media will be? Hi, Will.
Hi, Beth. Great to see you. Thanks for coming.
I think that one of the things that's really interesting about this is that the established norms about how people consume content and how people behave and how businesses work have been established for decades or even hundreds of years. And then all of a sudden, social media has come on the scene and has been a real force for the last decade or so, and has fundamentally disrupted everything we do, and including disrupting themselves. So a lot of their revenue models are based on how things used to happen. So if you think about this, YouTube, which is the second most used search engine on the planet, now when you click something, you get maybe 17 seconds of ads. It's the longest 17 seconds of your life. And what's interesting is that previously those mechanisms like that, and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter to a lesser extent, they have monetized those platforms through advertising. The problem is that the expectation of the shareholders and the business and the greed of the current capitalist system is that there's a desire for more, and more means more adverts, and more adverts means more interruptions to the very reason you're going to the platform. So I can anticipate that in the future we will see two models, and YouTube are already starting to implement this, which is you can have it for free and this is the price you pay, or you can pay a price and then you get it for free. And that price is what is it, $17.99 a month to have it ad free, or is it $9.99 a month to have it ad free, or potentially fewer ads for $6.99 a month. But I'm a keen guitarist. I like watching people speak at events. I like watching cars race up hills at Goodwood and that sort of thing. And so I do use YouTube quite a lot. And I'm becoming increasingly aware of the fact that where it used to be one video in 10, when you watch 10 on the trot, then it was one video in 5. And now it's like every other video, there's a 17-second interruption. And I think that's damaging my perception. I can't be the only one, damaging my perception of the brand. And there has to be a different model, because the problem is they're going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg, which is us. So what do you guys reckon?
I don't see it nearly as detrimental. What I do see, though, is Web 3.0 talks about the individual user's privacy. And I don't mean Bitcoin or crypto or NFTs or anything like that, but it's a matter of not having to have this third party, this Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, collect all this personal data about you. But they collect that data for one purpose: to better tailor the ads that you see. Without that data, they're not going to stop running ads, but it's going to be more like television before cable. Everyone's going to see the same ad. They're still going to have ads. It's just not going to be as customized. And because it's not,
I don't mind customized ads. So from the data perspective,
you don't, but most people just associate all ads together. I much prefer the customized ads.
So do I. But in the hierarchy, there's generic ads where I get sanitary products and dog food advertised to me amongst the things that I want, to the more refined ads where they're trying to sell me guitar strings and pickups and new tires for my car. But the premium thing, the preferable thing, is no ads at all. Because at the end of the day, I've gone to that platform to watch that video or see that person or engage with that audience. And everything that interrupts that reduces the quality of the experience that I have. If you pay to go to an event or go to an event, and the first thing that happens is somebody gets up on stage and says, right, let me just give you a quick 5-minute run through of our software. Actually, that's the point when you walk out and go to the bar, isn't it?
But that's the point. Did you pay to go to that event, or was that event free? And I use free loosely, because nothing is free. You're either going to pay with your wallet or your time. And to me, the worst is the combination of both. I remember when MTV first started running commercials, and I was pissed. How dare you?
Yeah.
I pay my cable subscription. Cable channels shouldn't have adverts. And yet they do. And now all of them do. And it just boggles my mind. Why? Because we were so accustomed to television and advertising that they slipped it by us. Wait, we're paying for the privilege now to be advertised to? So, in terms of where is social going, without that data, without that personalization, I think we're going to get more of what we had strayed from, that is the targeted advertising. We're going to get more generic advertising and less that is relevant to us, only frustrating us more when those ads do arrive.
So just remember, this is the question I just put. Beth's question. Sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in terms of what Rob was saying there, you talked about you pay with your money, you pay with your time. The other thing has been you in effect you pay with your data.
Yep.
Because people gather that, and there was a kind of monetized or monetization value associated with that. Of course, post certain events, I'm not quite sure, and GDPR, how open and how possible that is. I'm just also curious with Adam, short of, I know, demolishing the current capitalist system, if you're in YouTube and you've got this product and you are there to make money for your business and your shareholders.
Yeah, of course.
What other kind of avenues or have you got in terms then?
I don't think it's about the fact that we don't want ads, because one of my pet hates is when people talk about what an evil individual Mark Zuckerberg is because he's using our data. However, they're quite happy to spend 2 hours a day on his platform that he's providing for nothing in order that they can keep in touch with their friends and family spread all over the world. And it's like, get real. You've got to pay for that one way or another, and I'm perfectly happy with that. But I do think that there is a balance to be struck. And I think that when you go too far one way, you end up with MySpace, which just goes under. And if you go too far the other way, you end up with MySpace because everybody leaves. And actually, there's that sweet spot in the middle, isn't there, where you're engaging your audience enough that the audience numbers continue to grow, but you're not desensitive, because YouTube is now at a point, I think, where, and I know that there is Vimeo, but if there were another YouTube, we would see people migrating from YouTube to YouTube 2.0, because actually, if I got 75% of the content, because let's be honest, 90% of the content on there is garbage. If I got 75% of the content with 10% of the adverts, I'd happily pay for losing 25% of the content that's there.
Can I take the conversation on a bit?
Please.
To just remind everybody, we're taking questions from the audience today, and so if you've got any questions about sales or marketing, leadership, coaching, whatever, we'd love to have them and debate them. We're talking about best question, which is the future of social media. What we've seen over this is from where I see the world, which is the friends I have that used to do Facebook ads have left. And the reason for that is that because of the changes in iOS 14. I was asked yesterday what iOS is. iOS being the Apple operating system. So Apple have changed the operating system, so you can't have, so that the targeted ad system on Facebook doesn't work anymore. So what you're seeing is massive disruption taking place. So was it that Facebook have lost $11 billion or something? So Snapchat this week announced a paid for version because they're not getting the advertising revenues. Snapchat have been hit exactly the same by iOS 14. So there's a war going on amongst big tech, amongst themselves, in terms of how they want to see the world. And Apple is positioning itself as one that says it doesn't want to see people taking personal data.
It's the champion of the consumer in this instance.
Yeah. Even though what they're doing is that they're using it's a marketing. They're doing it because what brands do is that they champion certain things, and that's they're seeing themselves as so. What we're seeing right now is a big change taking place. We've now got 60% of the world's population on social media. And they're active, and active means that the average person now spends 2 hours 27 minutes,
just under 2.5 hours
2.5 hours a day on social media. In the Philippines, they spend 5 hours a day on social media. So what we've seen is this complete switch where social media used to be a destination, and COVID has accelerated that to the fact that we now are on social media and we tend to spend our time on it. And I don't know about you, but one of the things that I've seen certainly over the last 2 years is that we have this thing that Gartner described way back 5 years ago about the modern buyer. The modern job hunter is exactly the same. So when I go online to buy something, I'm looking at the company on social. I'm looking at the management team on social. I'm looking at the people on social, and I do exactly the same as that as a job hunter. Is this the type of company I want to work for? And if I'm searching for, so we have this thing where this modern person, and we all do it. You know, the first thing you do, if you sat down with your partner in a coffee shop on a Saturday and said, let's go to Iceland on holiday next week, what you do is just get your phone out. So that's one of the big changes. There's also a number of things that are taking place with the metaverse that are starting to change things. So I've got an interview coming up with someone who's saying that NFTs will basically replace CRMs. And we're also in that discussion. There's going to be we're going to talk about 3D websites, which is what Web 3.0 provides you with. Now, if you think about the current customer experience that we have on most websites, which is pretty dire, because they're mainly just templated and people put them up. Just think about what organizations are going to have to do when they go 3D. So that's some of the things. So you, Beth, I was talking and I wasn't, and I haven't read your comments.
Yeah, that was a big change, wasn't it? When you logged into an app for the first time, and it said, "Are you okay for us to track you?" And I mean, it's so front and center now of the experience, isn't it? You know, this whole Apple protecting your privacy, which I mean, it is a powerful thing, isn't it? At least you give your data knowingly, or not, as the case may be.
And I don't know where that's going to go. But it's very clear that the fact that we're debating it and we're having a conversation it shows that we're now aware of it. Whereas probably before COVID, we just went onto Facebook and we just did the stuff and not realizing how much the data was being used.
I think it's also interesting, the wording, isn't it? So you go to a website and it says, allow cookies, accept or decline. And you go, oh, cookies, they're all right, aren't they? And then you go to your iOS and it says, allow the app to track you. You know, there's a very big difference. One of them implies warm and friendly and giving you a better experience. The other implies Big Brother and kind of looking through your files when you're not at home, kind of thing. So I think it's really interesting that Apple are going big on that. But that surely will drive, you know, that will destabilize the environment in which Apple operates, which is a very high risk strategy. Because let's be honest, you know, if ultimately this means the collapse of, you know, and this is quite a jump, but it means the collapse of YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of these different platforms, then it's like, well, I don't need a smartphone anymore. I can do with a tiny little flip phone because I'm using it to phone people and text people now, rather than using it as an entry point to the internet. And given that they've got, you know, Apple and the smartphone, or any smartphone manufacturer, and social media have a very symbiotic relationship, don't they? That to cut off your nose to spite your face could have unintended consequences.
You ready for another question?
Yes.
Okay. This is from Andrew, which kind of segues us in similar sort of So Beth, great question. We could have a whole session on that. But I think that's a good 10 minutes of it. But Andrew, this is a good question as well. Is social media transferring more younger companies, and are the older, more corporate, multinational companies not taking up the advantage of social can create? And I'm going to keep quiet.
Honestly, that presumes that the younger companies get it. And most of them don't, not nearly to the extent that they could. And we work with some older, even multinational companies that do get it. But yes, in general, that is the perception, and that is the reality. A younger company is able to, almost required to, take risks, take gambles on things regarding, you know, putting themselves out there on social media and being active, because they have to find a way to cut through the otherwise traditional means of getting to the desired audience, and the multinationals have locked that up.
It's a great question, Andrew, and I see young companies spending all their money on advertising, which gets them nothing, and I see big companies empowering their employees to talk on social and getting a lot, and it doesn't, it's nothing about size of company or anything like that, but people know what most people watching this know where I stand, and I don't want to go into a
I think that most big companies are labouring under the misapprehension that they have something to lose. So, they can be quite conservative about their behaviour. We need to protect our brand and all of this kind of thing. But, I think that if nothing, the last 25 years has taught us that no company is too big to fail. We saw it with Arthur Andersen. We saw it with Kodak. We've seen it with companies that have been market leaders and incredibly established and infamous by their ability to control and monopolize markets because of their success, that have evaporated in almost no time at all. And in our space, I remember when MySpace was the biggest site on the internet by far. Now, if you say to someone who's 15, MySpace, they go, "What are you talking about? That's my bedroom." And I think that the reality is that it's like the Wild West, isn't it, out there? Fortune favors the brave, and the organizations, large or small, that can embrace this change and the perceived risk, which is oftentimes nothing more than a perception of risk, are the ones that stand to be the big winners from this.
I think there's a mindset piece as well, and I look at an organization that I work with, which is a big multinational, and what's been really interesting for me in the last 6 months, 12 months, is to see how certain people I'm connected with in that organization have increased their output and become much more visible on LinkedIn. And what I haven't done yet is to go back and see whether that was something that has been consciously kind of taught, or it's an initiative that's been launched, or whether that's people just working off their own bat. But there seems to be probably somewhere between half a dozen to a dozen people now who are much more active on LinkedIn, posting much more regularly. So there are obviously people in the organization who kind of get it, whether, as I say, they're doing that off their own initiative, or whether there's something that's kind of more coordinated, or whether there's been a suggestion, we'll go and pilot this and let's see how it lands. I don't know. So,
or are they doing this because they've seen you?
No, I think
no, so empowering, Will.
No, but I mean that in the most sensible way, because actually, if you are moderately of an open mindset, you go onto LinkedIn and you see Tim, and you go onto LinkedIn tomorrow and you see Tim, and you go onto LinkedIn the day after and you see Tim, and you go onto LinkedIn the day after and you see Tim, and you think, I'm always seeing Tim, why is that? And then you see that he posts a lot of content, posts every day, and then you go, okay, so if I'm seeing him every day, if I post stuff, my audience will see me every day. And actually, that's not a huge leap, is it? It requires you to at least be open to the concept, of course. But actually, I think a lot of this is people absorbing the proof of seeing it happening to them.
I think it's a good point. I don't think it's for that reason, but I think it certainly gives me now an impulse to go and follow up with a couple of those individuals and just find out what's going on behind the scenes there.
So Beth makes a great comment here. The best example for me of this is the larger, more established companies never reply to their followers on social media unless it's a complaint. If it were me, I'd be looking to reply to people that love the company to engage with as many. I totally agree with you, Beth. The best example of this, Beth, is Vanessa Gartel, who does the wine reviews on Breakfast Burrito. And what she does is that she will always post afterwards and say, this is the wine, tags the company, and she's put out a post recently that even though she tags the company, and even though these people are getting free adverts, They hardly ever respond. Darren, I totally agree. I don't think even though influencers are basically just paid adverts, Kim Kardashian, when she wears a pair of shoes or whatever, it's just an advert. It's just no different from the Aunt Martini ad that we saw. I don't think younger people understand that it's just an advert. And while I bring up the content, there's a quick question here from it's Mikhail, isn't it? What happens if you don't accept a cookie on a website? Do you know?
Yeah, you don't get a personalized experience. There's no downside. What you will find is that, generally speaking, the more open and forward-looking companies, the companies that say accept all, decline all, and it's quite easy. A lot of companies have accept or cancel. And if you click cancel, you go off the website. And if you click accept or set, you have to go through and set the preferences. So oftentimes you just go, oh, well, I'll just accept them, which seems a little bit kind of railroading people. But yeah, it's just about being able for them to, so, in this country, you go to John Lewis and the website and you look at a teapot. And then for the next month, that teapot is on every single website you go to. And it prevents that from happening.
So one of the things that you get is something called programmatic, which is where it takes the cookie and then they use that. So, for example, like Adam's guitars, I'll be online, funnily enough, looking at vinyl records, and then what happens is I'll bring up a particular website, and then what will happen is that Rough Trade will show me through a programmatic ad a whole bunch of vinyl records, even though it's not actually contextual with the website I'm looking at, and it's through cookies. So I've just picked this one at random, this piece of content. I think it's yours, isn't it, Will?
It is mine, yeah. And it kind of touches on a couple of points that we've already been talking about. And I know Stephen's listening. He unfortunately was otherwise engaged to be able to join us live to talk about it. But Stephen is a contact of our good friend Eric, and he posted this morning, so it was really kind of timely. And Stephen here is talking about going to an event. He's involved in the oil and gas industry. So this event itself was, I think he says it was for the Offshore UK conference in Aberdeen. And he'd been invited along as an expert and guest speaker in that area, and found actually most of the questions he had when he was meeting people was all due to his LinkedIn presence. And people were asking him about how he managed to get so much great engagement and what kind of methodology he used. And this article, I think, really sums it up well, because he talks about kind of three main points which stand out for me, which is always act with integrity and authenticity, to be yourself. That part around understanding your purpose. So we talked a little bit earlier in response to Robert's question about understanding what it is that you want to be known for, and on top of that, putting out quality content on a very regular basis, and then also measuring the progress that you're making, and the amount of interaction that it gets. So I think it's a great reference for as you become more active on social, how you can get recognized and how that can be leveraged. And I think it is one of those things, and I'm sure we've all had it when we've been to events, or we come across friends who we haven't seen for a while, and they'll say, I haven't been in contact, but I see you're really active on LinkedIn. And I think it's one of those which, as you go on this journey and as you become more social, it's a really good kind of litmus test about, okay, actually, are you living up to those things that you're trying to do? How do people see your profile? What's the credibility that you're building up? So I just thought this was a kind of great article which summed that up.
It is a great article. It's nice. It's nicely written as well, in terms of you Adam often says, you don't know an article is good until you've read it.
Yeah.
Which is true. And it's one of those where you sit there and go, oh, here it is. Here's another LinkedIn article. And then you read it and go, no, actually, that's really nicely presented and well written. It's good.
I think the surprise is because we all open up some articles and, you kind of think, oh, I'll read the first paragraph or two. And it's those ones that kind of really hook you in. So I'll embarrass him a bit. It was a bit like Adam's article today about the Goodwood races, because I saw a great hook to get in reading it, and then the talk about the kind of electric cars, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch all of the video, but I watched the first 4 or 5 minutes and then skipped to the last 2 or 3 minutes to see what the time was on the last 2 cars. But it was that thing that kind of draws you in and really kind of engages you. So, yeah.
The ads came up with it.
Yeah, for guitar strings. I don't play a guitar. So.
Yeah, you still need them. Honestly, you do.
This is yours, isn't it, Rob?
Yes. So this came about, actually, a friend sent this to me. Because we had recently had the discussion, and I said, well, you've heard the old adage, nobody likes to be sold to, but everybody likes to buy. And based on that discussion, he sent this article to me. And what I found interesting about it was it sort of speaks to what we were talking about in that discussion. So the Boston Consulting Group has actually done a survey, and it says companies have long operated under the assumption that buyers want a human-led experience. Our new report, and even the title gives away what I would expect the findings to be, the declining relevance of humans in delivering what customers want, found that 6,000 consumers worldwide challenged that conventional understanding. I actually haven't dug into this report yet. I am planning on doing that over the weekend. But just seeing the survey results was kind of surprising to me. When you shop, do you prefer working with a human sales agent, a bot, or a self-service tool? Or if other, please comment below. It does not surprise me that nobody wants to speak to a bot. But in my mind, a bot is nothing more than a self-service tool with some AI programmatic automations connected to it. What really surprised me in this poll was how many people still say they want a human sales agent. And I think of me going to like a car dealer. I've done all of my research beforehand. I know exactly what I want. I've researched all of the dealerships in the area to find who has the exact vehicle with the exact configurations. And I show up, financing ready, check in hand. I want that one. And I have to go through a salesperson simply because that's the model that they've set up. I hear more and more people say, they're doing their own research and coming to the buying process. 57% down the pipeline, I think, is the ad that or the stat that is thrown out. Although how they figure that is beyond me. And to see that, despite all of that, at least for the people responding to this survey, they're still more interested in dealing with a human. That's surprising and maybe encouraging.
No, well, yes and no. I think that the key thing here is that salespeople will often look at this and say, that means the customer is looking for my cold call because they want to deal with the person. No, and that.
I think you're right.
That's
yes,
what people read into this. So you've done your research online. You know that you're going to buy a BMW 330 Touring with this pack, with this, and you go into the BMW dealer and you sit down with a salesperson, because what you don't want to do is to order it with bright pink fancy upholstery and 8-inch wheels by mistake. So what you're doing is you're going to the expert to validate that you've clicked the right buttons during this. Or if you're booking a holiday, before you book it online, you speak to the sales agent and you say, I just want to confirm that. And then they say, yes, you've read that correctly. The flight does leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it does, and the transfers are included. And that I totally believe. I'm surprised that isn't higher. But the problem is that a human sales agent is the person that takes your order when you've decided you want to buy, and the person that is the first touch point when you're not even sure that you have a problem that can be addressed by that issue. And I think that that kind of stat is incredibly misleading, because you can take either one of those things away from it, can't you? One of them exactly plays to what you know is the truth, and the other one plays to what the salesperson, the cold caller, hopes is the truth. And I think those are diametrically opposed.
And I think there's also something around, you know, in that scenario, people are kind of caught in a middle ground, because whereas I think when people used to come into a shop and you didn't have all of this other information available to you, it was easier to lead everybody down the same path. The fact of the matter is that you've got people, you know, as yourselves, who've done that research before they've got into the store, and, you know, they know where they want to get to. And you've also got people who are still left, you know, where they used to be, haven't got that information, need to be taken through. So there's something around the training for the quality of, you know, those sales reps or people in the shop who are there to assist, that they've got to figure out much more quickly where you are on that line.
Yeah.
And then be able to adapt very quickly, you know, in order to offer the right level of customer service for the person who's in front of them. And I think that's where there's the big lag in training, partly because of the lack of training, and partly because, yeah, some of the people that they're bringing in are just, they're not bringing up to speed quick enough.
Yeah.
And they're not bringing in the right attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum was in a shop, and, you know, she's not a classic person to go out and buy a pair of trainers. She went and bought a pair of trainers. And the shop assistant who worked with her to start off with, you know, really made her feel as if she wasn't welcome there. What was she doing there? To be fair,
like the Not Like News sketch. Do you want your woofers and your tweeters?
Exactly.
There's a skateboard shop. There's a skateboard shop in Kingston upon Thames, near where I live. And when my partner and I go in there looking for things for children, that all the people go like, "What are those old people doing in here? Are you okay, Grandad? Are you lost?"
To be fair to the store manager, he saw this going on, and then when my mum came to pay, he said, you know, have you been happy with your level of service? And she said no, and he knocked 10% off the price of the trainer she was buying. So, you know, there are some good examples of that, but, you know, it's always that first contact you get. And, you know, that's the impression that you're going to take about actually whether it's worth going into that store or not. And is a £10 discount for some of that discomfort you felt actually worth that kind of trade?
The fact she walked out with a set of Brooks ultra light triathlon fast lacing shoes probably is not, that's not the 10% that's the problem, is it?
No, indeed.
I think it's great research, Rob, because it does, because we all buy stuff online because it's a commodity. It's you know, it's fast, it's convenient, and we don't like talking to salespeople. But there are certain instances where we do like talking to salespeople. So if you take Chris Learmouth, who's the dealer principal at BMW in Park Lane, he says he knows that when somebody walks through the door, a prospective client walks through the door or goes online to look for a BMW, they know more than his sales team. You cannot know as a salesperson every single thing that there is to know about the BMWs. But what they do, and Beth's comment is very true, is that quite often what you're looking for is that guidance right at the end. That you know, for example, you've configured and it's pink leather and it's yellow outside, and you say to the salesman, "This is the car I want," and the salesperson says, "You will never resell that in the resale market." Oh, why not? Well, nobody wants a pink leather car with yellow exterior. Oh, right, okay. And it's about that understanding of some things that you will never know or you will never be able to find on the internet, like the leasing options. I mean, Chris has explained to us in the past about how there's one car with an M option and the car with a non-M option, and he said if you take the one with a non-M option, it's worth more when you come. It's got a higher resale value. But the brake horsepower is only like 15 brake. There's the difference. You will never know on the freeway or the motorway about that difference. And I think that there's still that requirement, certainly in certain things that we buy, counting systems, or certain pieces of software, or certain complex things, or in oil and gas, where you still will require a salesperson, but you require them because they're an expert. And you're looking for that trust, all the things that we normally talk about.
Yeah.
God, everybody's trying to get hold of me today.
You're popular.
My piece of content is this one here from Anthony Rose, who is the founder and CEO of Seed Legals. If you don't know, that they're a company that helps HUPs, and basically what they're trying to do is create things off the shelf, so you can just buy the NDA. You can just go on and say, I want that NDA and I want that agreement and I want that agreement, and the whole point of it is to try and commoditize the legal process within the startup community. God, Adam's sending me stuff at the and it's a bit it's a bit cheeky, but he goes on and it goes to an article in terms of 5-year business plans are made up, but the investors still want them. And I think certainly when Adam and I started, we didn't have a 5-year plan.
I think we didn't have a 5-minute plan at the very beginning.
But it's true, you know, as a startup, you need to show your ambition. You need to show that you understand what the market opportunity is. You need to understand and have some idea about what your future revenues will be. And, you know, you need to be understanding about how you're going to break even and how you're going to make some money. So
the point that you said there, the first thing was the big thing, the vision. You know, you need to be able to say, this is where we're going and why.
Yeah.
And actually, if everything else falls into place or falls out of that, but if you don't know why you're doing it, if you think it's, you know, because I've got a customer opportunity, actually you end up sailing around in circles, don't you?
Yeah.
And to bring it full circle, oh look, cookies.
Yeah. Yes.
And then Robert.
Yeah, so this was the bit that I saw today. Interesting that Robert was the first person that kind of joined and had some input in today's session, and I thought that this was lovely, and it was lovely because it was a post about him and what he was doing, but it was also lovely because it showed in this interaction that he had selling these couple of things, it absolutely showed the way that life and business works, which is that if you are generous, people are generous back, which makes you more generous, which makes them more generous. And I think that one of the things that we are often kind of programmed to believe is this Wall Street view that, you know, I have to be hard, I have to be, you know, Glenn Ross in sales, or, you know, a Gordon Gekko type corporate raider. It's all about, you know, I'm going to hammer you down and get the best deal for me that I possibly can, irrespective of the collateral damage. And actually, in the more open world of social and people-to-people interactions, and we see it all the time, you know, you share your best stuff with people and they respond. They rise with your kindness and they give you something back, whether that's business or introductions or advice or leadership or guidance or whatever it may be. And I think that this is a lovely, very a micro example of that macro concept. You know, he came to buy something from Robert. He didn't have change, so he paid Robert more than Robert was asking for it. So Robert found some extra stuff to give him because he thought he's going to a good home. So the guy said, let me introduce you to my sales leader because you might be able to help him. So, You know, an act of kindness beget another act of kindness, beget another act of kindness. And, you know, we see this literally every day, don't we? You know, we share our stuff, and what happens is we get something from it. And it's lovely.
Well, we're just 1 minute past the hour. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. And thank you for all the questions. It's been fantastic. And it's been a great debate. Thank you, Adam, Will, and Rob, for all of your insight and suggestions and comments. It's been fabulous.
And thank you, Tim, for chairing today.
And it's a great skeleton crew. Thank you. And thank you for all the comments and the questions. I really appreciate it. Robert, Stephen, Beth, Mikhail, Andrew, Darren, and it's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks.
Have a great weekend.
Great holiday
have a great
weekend.
4th of July, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy 4th of July. It's happy for us as well.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.